Okay. And is ectoplasm real?
Yes, as I just said, it's just a way of describing a certain state of the idea of electromagnetic energy, whether it is refining itself at a higher frequency or whether it is lowering its frequency and becoming more densified. So it's simply a state somewhere in between, sort of what you might call astral matter or etheric matter. It's kind of all the same thing, again, maybe with not as many elemental components represented in the vibratory frequency overall, but in general, you all have this matter, you all have this substance that is utilized at different frequency levels, whether it be transparent, invisible, or dense like physical matter that is opaque.
Okay, and can pets take on a ghost body after passing? And is this very common?
They don't take on a ghost body. They have the same kind of levels of expression of consciousness that you do. So the idea of quote unquote dropping their physical form or expanding their vibration to become spirit simply lets them go back to their natural state, as do you when you die. So it's not that they take on the body, that is their natural state. They densify themselves just as you do to come into material form that you would recognize as physical matter. So yes, of course, they have their own spirit forms.
And is there a reason why a pet would take on a ghost body or express their ghost body to physical people?
Well, there can be many reasons. Again, you are connected to them. They can shift their vibration when necessary to be more represented in your physical material world to at least some degree. So it depends upon the relationship, it depends upon the reasons, it depends upon the circumstances and why it might be necessary for them to do so, or why it is that your senses may be capable, being more refined on a higher frequency, of picking them up, even though they may not necessarily be densifying themselves to any great degree. You might be able to perceive them because you refined your senses by taking them to a higher frequency that's closer to the level in which the pet is existing.
Can you think of an example where an animal might become visible like that to an individual after they've passed? That, particularly an owner.
Yes, well, let us say that for some reason the owner has synchronistically attracted themselves to a situation that might be somewhat dangerous to them. And therefore the pet may materialize to some degree to act as a warning, to let them know not to proceed or to pay attention to something that's very important for their safety.
Okay. I mean, this has to do with death, but it just occurs to me to ask that a hawk appearing on a branch in a tree in your yard when you have a kitten and seeing it's actually on the branch eating another bird. What kind of a representation having to do with death and also the safety of the kitten would you perceive about that?
There are far too many interpretations of that particular scenario. It would have a lot to do with the people that are observing it, the situation at hand, and many other factors that are simply too numerous to go into. You would have to take everything into account that's going on in that particular scenario.
Interesting. I just wondered if it comes up as a warning, when animals show up like that and show a scenario like that, it also could be a warning, right?
Well, that's one possibility, but it's not inevitably so. It could mean many different things. Again, it depends on what those symbols represent to people, so on and so forth. So there are just too many interpretations and too many personal issues that may be involved in that kind of a scenario to give an overall generalization.
And this person is saying that whenever they see a roadkill or an animal that's passed, they say a quick prayer for them. Thank you for your energy and light. May you rest in peace, knowing you are loved here on earth. I then do the Reiki power symbol and say, and so it is. Does it help the animal? Can they feel it? Could you please revise or add to this blessing so it has more power and love to it?
The animal can absolutely feel it and does receive it and will return and reflect the love back. But in a sense, it's more about helping the human by doing those things. They're helping themselves. The idea is that the animal is always connected, always loving, always sending. This ritual, this permission slip that the human is describing, allows the human perhaps more efficacy in receiving the reflection of love and gratitude and appreciation that the animal is always sending.
Okay, and this individual is saying, how is it that a non-physical ghost can move physical things or do harm to a physical being? My ex-wife grew up in a haunted two-story home in Placer County and had several creepy experiences. At age 7 or 8, she woke up at night in bed and felt she was being choked. When she got up and looked in the mirror, her throat had finger marks on it. The 1870 piano that came with the house would play Middle C in the middle of the night. She also experienced heavy breathing on her face and many other things.
There are many things going on here, and again, too many details to go into with regard to that specific series of incidents. However, to answer the basic question, it's as we said before. A spirit, in certain circumstances, may be capable of densifying itself to the point where it can actually interact with physical matter. Because again, physical matter is just a densification of the same energy that the spirit is made of as well. So the idea is that based on the frequency, if a harmonic chord is struck, if the frequencies harmonize and match to some degree, then it's possible that one can affect the other. But we won't go into all the reasons for those experiences as you've described them, because right now it's way too complex. And there are many things on many different levels happening in the scenario you have just illustrated.
How can we get better at interpreting these things? Because, for example, you've done this with many people and you're able to perhaps glean more information than we might be able to. How can we enhance our ability to interpret these situations?
Raise your frequency. That's all you need to do. With the raising of the frequency comes more ability to interpret information, and more information that is easy to understand will come to you because it is the information relevant to that frequency level. So again, follow the formula, follow your passion, raise your frequency, go into the channeling state. You will receive what you need and you will understand it more clearly because on that level, things are clearer and more understandable.
Yes, that's really good. Thank you.
Yes.
Many people have experiences where it appears that ghosts are getting stuck on Earth due to unfinished business. And this is how we get haunted houses where paranormal things happen. Is this really what's happening, or is there another explanation?
In many cases, yes, that is what is happening to some degree. If spirits have unfinished business, they may hang around. It's not necessarily always that they're stuck, per se. They may be doing this quite intentionally, quite consciously. But yes, there are those few that may be confused about their status, where they are, who they are now, the fact that they're even dead. But again, the idea is that many of them may simply have business to attend to and may need to adjust their frequency to be able to do that. So yes, in some sense. But again, remember, as we have explained, there are many different kinds of things that can be happening that may appear to be a living ghost, so to speak, while some things may simply be repeating loops of incidents that have been impressed into the space-time fabric, and that may not actually be a live event. You may even be seeing into parallel realities that may appear diaphanous and transparent to you, but to themselves may be a solid reality just like you perceive your reality to be. And they may, from time to time, be perceiving your reality as if you are a spirit or a ghost, when in fact they're just peering through vibrationally into your reality, but not so fully as to see you as a solid being. So again, as we have explained, there are many different ways in which you can perceive things that may appear to be a living ghost, but don't necessarily have to be.
Okay, now you may already have answered this, but what determines what whether a ghost appears as an orb or as a partial or full apparition.
Well, again, the intention of the moment, why they may need to project something that might be familiar to the person they may be interacting with or perceiving. But in a relaxed state, a spirit is usually perceived as an orb. So it depends on the level at which it is necessary for them to project something else that would give them a different appearance than that.
Did you once say that ghosts are people too?
Yes, and we were quoting the idea of something that has been said by a person that is very familiar with assisting spirits to cross over to the other side more fully.
This person is saying, as a child, I would have experiences of seeing ghosts when I would try to sleep. One presented herself to me as an older lady that would tell me that I would go into the dark. Another would present itself as a leprechaun who started out as friendly and then went scary. As an adult, and I am working towards connecting with such beings, such as yourself or other benevolent beings, if I get an inkling of an entity near me, fear kicks in. Can you explain my experience and help remove the fear?
Well, again, remember, nothing can harm you. You have to agree to match the frequency in order to feel or experience the idea of harm within your own reality. Now, it's true that many unconscious belief systems that you may be unaware of may take you to such frequencies where you may manifest on yourself any particular negative intention that may be being directed towards you by a spirit that may itself be caught up in its own, shall we say, negative emotional states, if it is not fully transitioned. But the idea is that it cannot harm you directly. So there is really nothing to fear, and it is fear itself that brings you to the level where you may inflict the harm on yourself that might be reflective of the intention of a negative spirit. So know that going in, if you simply maintain your own sense of self and your frequency of preference, then you can simply observe and sense that some other entity may be around without the idea that you will come to harm, and therefore no fear is necessary. On the other hand, it may be that the spirit is awakening a negative belief system within you, even though it intends you no harm at all, by its very presence, in much the same way that we say we do not interact with you directly because our higher vibration may cause certain things within your unconscious mind to come forward into your conscious mind that you're not ready to face, negative and fear-based beliefs. Therefore, it may simply be the interaction with a higher frequency that is causing certain negative and fear-based beliefs to emerge into your physical consciousness before you are truly ready to absorb or handle them.
Now, this is a personal story that this person is asking. They're saying that her ex-husband and she were very close before he died. Years before he died, I had my wedding ring redesigned into a new ring. I cried for months after he died, and one night I declared that I wanted to stop grieving him. The next day I noticed that my ring was not on my finger. I was upset and searched everywhere. It seems to have disappeared into thin air. Is it possible that he came and took it to help disconnect our energy and help me move on? Is it just in another dimension, and can I get it back?
Well, the simple answer is yes. In other words, the spirit is assisting you to understand that you do need to move on with your life, and that even though you will always be connected, you don't necessarily need the symbol, which is acting in a sense as an anchor to hold you back from experiencing more joy and happiness in your life and moving forward. So yes, it is in a sense something that was done by that spirit, and in a sense allowed you to shift to another dimension where you recognize that you are free to move forward and not held back by the societal impression of being married to someone who is no longer physically alive.
Okay, thank you. This is an individual who says that I was very rude and dismissive the last time I had an interaction with what I believed to be a ghost. I was in a rush to leave the house and told her to sod off. She came after me and pushed me. I have not experienced any interaction with other ghosts since. Is there a way to apologize to her? Is my rude and dismissive behavior the reason why I'm no longer being interacted with?
Well, look at it as if that person was physical. Of course, your behavior may be the reason that this spirit is no longer willing to interact with you. But to answer your other question, yes, of course you can apologize. Send it out sincerely. The spirit will receive it and may choose to interact with you again when the time is appropriate. So treat it like it's a living person.
Would ghosts be as sensitive as human beings are to things like rudeness or not realizing, what you've said or done that would affect that being?
It depends on the level in which they're existing at that moment. If they're of a lower vibration, they may act much like a person would. But again, it may also be a lesson to be learned that this is the kind of reaction you will get from anyone if your behavior stays the same, whether you're interacting with a spirit or living human. So it may have been a lesson to be learned. So by all means, apologize and go forward. Now, the idea can also be simply, one moment.